Have you ever wondered why most agencies struggle to generate consistent referrals despite having thousands of LinkedIn connections? What if I told you that there is a systematic approach that we kind of stumbled upon for generating at least one referral per week into a targeted company without mass outreach, automation, or anything that's going to hurt your network, and also without awkward conversations? Keep watching. I'm Dan Englander. I'm CEO and founder of Sales Schema. Since 2014, I've helped hundreds of agency owners and B2B service company salespeople make business development a lot more proactive and repeatable by focusing on strategic relationships and selling into areas where they already have trust. I'm the author of the book Relationship Sales at Scale, and I host the Digital Agency Growth Podcast every week. So here's a quick thought exercise. If you had to 10x your business without any inbound marketing or outbound prospecting, what would you do? This is one of those rare business questions where there actually is one right answer, and it's that you would leverage your existing network. The problem is that most of us don't use our networks effectively or leverage them strategically. I certainly didn't for many years. When I was selling creative services, I wanted referrals into enterprise marketing departments, and I was networking constantly. I was talking to non-competing agencies almost daily. I was meeting with vendors regularly. I was staying in touch with former clients. I was dragging myself to all sorts of early morning networking events with coffee and bagels in New York City in the freezing cold. And I was wandering through the hellscape of the Javits Center every so often, which was not fun. Everybody told me to be laser focused on who I wanted to beat, so I got really specific about job titles, about industries, about verticals, about company sizes. But 95% of the time, what I heard was, I'll keep my ear to the ground, or I'll get back to you if I know anybody. This rarely led to anything, and most of the time, I would just be referred to some other potential partner where I would restart the same fruitless exercise. So despite my commitment to this process, because I saw it sometimes working for other people, it was like banging my head against the wall. And often these conversations were awkward. There'd be this like catch up at the beginning, and then everybody kind of knew I was just trying to get referred, and nothing really went anywhere, and it was not comfortable. But the truth was, I was asking potential referrers, even people that liked me and trusted what we did and wanted to help, I was asking them to do way too much work. In order for them to help me, they had to understand our value proposition fully and its differentiators. They had to mentally think about what we're up to and who we want to meet, and then actually search their Rolodexes to find the right fits. Not only that, they then had to think about whether this person was somebody that they felt comfortable introducing or not, or maybe it was somebody that they had to get some other action from right then. Like, relationships are complicated, and if you're asking somebody to do too many things, nothing really happens. And then finally, they had to write and send introduction emails. So this was kind of like if I met a new friend and then I brought like a giant hay bale up to their door and dropped it in front of them, and then the hay like spread out all over their stoop. And then I said, hey, do you want to sift through this with me and find a few needles? So since I hit this wall, here are a few ways that I tried to solve this problem and mostly failed at it. The first was LinkedIn automation. While I've seen success with light touch connections and just expanding your network gradually that way, I really couldn't stomach letting bots or hiring outside consultants to do things to my network and say things to them without me having a high degree of control over it. So that didn't really go anywhere. As part of the New York networking grind, I joined referral-focused networking groups. But because we offered such a specialized service into like pretty specific industries, it was rare that well-meaning people would be able to help me, just based on the strength of their network. It was kind of random. Plus, most members, including myself, really kind of like churned out of those groups because we didn't like the pressure to constantly be like recording and measuring the volume of intros that we were making. Finally, I did a lot of verticalized networking, and I'd say, okay, for the next 90 days, I'm just going to focus on fintech, or I'm just going to focus on these larger CPG organizations or whatever it might be. While this was very useful for building clarity, it really didn't solve the fundamental problem of getting right fit referrals consistently. So I wish I could say that I just came up with the right idea back then, but really it took starting Sales Schema, running this for ourselves, and working with hundreds of agencies over the years to tinker with this to find a better way. So Overall, the game changer is going from a meandering referral system where even if you're specific about who you want to meet, or the type of person you want to meet, you're still sort of just leaving people with, do you know anyone? And that's what creates all the work. So the purpose of the system is to completely remove that problem. So step one is basically developing the list of the actual end prospect that you want to meet. So you can use this using tools like Sales Navigator, Apollo, Clay, pick your poison, but you're developing these company lists on one hand, and then you're piping them into a tool like Sales Nav to find the specific end decision makers that you would like to meet. Now, this is where a lot of people get it wrong. Back to the perils of mass automating this networking approach, where you'll be like, okay, I know these people over here, and then LinkedIn's telling me these ways in over there. So isn't there some kind of bot that can just hit up my network and ask for intros? The problem with this is that a lot of the times it doesn't work. Or if you're like me and most people, you don't feel comfortable with that because relationships are complicated. So what makes our approach different is what we recommend doing is exporting your LinkedIn connections. This is something that LinkedIn makes fairly easy. From there, deciding everybody that you would actually ask for an intro from, right? Because if you look at your network, if you're like me, I have something like 7,000 or 8,000 connections. What I've found is about half of those connections are people I do not know. And that is the same for most of our clients, probably the same for you. So immediately you're skipping past those people. Beyond that, there's going to be around maybe 20-30% of people that you do know, but you wouldn't feel comfortable asking for a referral from them for whatever reason, either because you're waiting for something else from them, or it would just be awkward. Maybe it's a college roommate that you haven't talked to in years, and so on. And then what's left is another, let's call it 20% of people that are business connections that you would definitely ask for referral. And chances are it's like people you haven't thought about in ages. It's like you're sitting on this web of potential opportunity and it's just like collecting dust. So then what we're doing is we look at the prospects over here that we want to meet, and we look at the approved connections over here, and then we map who knows who, right? So what we find is that some people might just have 0 connections, some of them might have 1, and then there's going to be some people that have like 3, 5, 10 connections to the people that you actually want to meet. Now, does it mean that they absolutely know those people and that they're super close to them and that they can definitely help? No, but the probability that they know at least one of them, or that they know other people that for whatever reason haven't made your list that you want to meet, now go up. So this whole process is something that you can execute with a tool like Sales Navigator and really not much else, and just the time to do it. Now you might be thinking this sounds like a lot of work to map these sort of connections, and it's not an insignificant amount, but the goal here isn't to do like a mass cold outreach campaign where you're like contacting hundreds or thousands of people a week. The goal is to get out, 3 or 5 of these meeting requests so that you can hopefully get at least one targeted referral every week, which can be absolutely game changing. The other thing that we do is like, okay, so let's like recap. You have your prospects over here. You have the people that you would ask for referral. You've mapped the connections. You figured out the ones that are really good, that are likely to know your market. Now, what most people do is they just say, hey, can I get an intro? What we recommend doing is actually getting on a call with these people, and to avoid any of that like earlier awkwardness or discomfort that I talked about in the process, just being super direct and honest with the email that sets up the networking call. So you're saying, hey, I know it sounds like we have a lot of inroads in the same places. I saw that you might be connected with some people I'm hoping to meet. I would love to see how I can help you as well. Can we jump on a call for 15 minutes? And because these are people you actually and are pre-approved, they're going to be very likely to say yes to that request. And then on the call, the game changer is now you have those names and those people directly in front of you, and you can say, hey, do you actually know any of these people on this list? Are these intros you would feel comfortable with? And then if you get a yes to that, or they're like, no, but there's this other person over here, because now you've like jogged their memory. Once you get that verbal approval, some people or a lot of people are just sitting on their hands and saying, great, so-and-so is going to help me out. This is awesome. But we need to go a step further. And really what makes the difference is following up with an email that makes their life easier. This is a template email that says basically like, thank you so much for making the intro to so-and-so. Here is their profile again for convenience. Here's their email. And I've included a template below that you can use to edit and then send to make that introduction. Now, this intro template should not be like salesy. It shouldn't be driving home like a close. This is basically just like informational and setting up what's going to happen on that call. The other thing is it's going to make the referrer feel a lot more comfortable putting you in touch because it's going to basically imply what's going to happen on that call, which is not a hard sell. It's a meeting to explore things, to be a resource, to be helpful. So that email is something like, hi, I think you should talk to Dan at Sales Schema. They help agencies with this problem. I think you would learn a lot from him, not I think you should buy from him. So again, just to recap, the main game changer here is taking the work off of your referrer, being direct and honest, and really having a lot of clarity before you even get started with this process by knowing who you want to meet from the jump. So if you'd actually like to get off and running with this fast and stick with it and stay accountable to a process like this so that you can get referrals consistently into the right accounts, we'd love to see if we can help you actually run with this quickly. So you can do that by scheduling time with me and my team by clicking on the link in the description. We treat this as a very low commitment diagnostic call. Our goal is to help. If that's our program, great. If it's a rec or referral or a link to additional content that we leave with at the end of that call, that is a win for us because we've helped you. So with that, would love to talk, and you can learn more in that below link. Thanks so much.